As promised, this is my playthrough of Test Drive 2, The Duel. This was easily my favorite video game from the time I got it around 1989 to the late 90s, basically. And I've never really had a favorite quite like it again, because as you age, your tastes diversify, obviously. The music, you could say, was even better than the original. I mean, it's very dated now, but it actually was almost commercial quality. The game only had two default cars, the Porsche 959 here and the Ferrari F40, which were the two fastest street-legal production cars at the time, and the idea was you would race them head-to-head. So it was a different plot, basically, from Test Drive 1. And you could get car discs and scenery discs so that you could drive 12 different cars and 3 different routes with their multiple stages. And Distinctive Software developed it for Accolade, just like Test Drive 1. So presumably this is a Canadian game like the original. I think these high scores are from the ROM developers, as I'm running this in emulation. And then you get a menu, because you can still race the old-fashioned way against the clock or against the computer opponent. And these menus are more or less self-explanatory. And the car menus are the same design as before. Basically miles per hour speeds, but otherwise metric. So there's a Ferrari. This is the European Ferrari F40, incidentally, with 478 horsepower and the sliding windows. Ferrari were in the process of developing a US version at that time with 469 horsepower and roll-down windows, but it wasn't in Test Drive 2, actually. And it wasn't as fast, so why put it in Test Drive 2? The Porsche 959 was more of a street car, so it always had roll-down windows. Four-wheel drive, too. And that made it one of the earlier four-wheel drive sports cars. Rally cars, of course, had often been four-wheel drive. And this was part of the reason, is that the 959 was originally developed as a rally car and ended up being marketed to the public as a street car. But both cars were incredibly rare. I've found that in Test Drive 2, anyway, the Ferrari F40 is the easier one to drive and hence the one that you can get the higher scores with. It is probably not possible to get the same results with the 959 in spite of their very similar numbers. And of course, the way the game is meant to be played is you race against the other of the two cars. So I'm going to set it up to be F40 versus 959 with me in the F40. So select the 959. A lot less music in this one, even though the opening music I think is pretty good. Music is kind of a distraction. It's not really what the game is supposed to be about, obviously. Now I'll take a quick look here at the scenery menu. This is a little bit redundant because you have to put in another scenery disc to even have other scenery than the master scenery. I'm going to do the first level of the master scenery because it's maybe the easiest level in the game. I'm way, way, way out of practice with this. The game play is much easier than Test Drive 1, but I still had a lot of trouble getting used to it after so many years. I haven't played this game in I don't know, easily pushing 20 years as of today. Now, the skill level is selectable, of course. In addition to making one or another condition more difficult, it also determines whether you have auto shift. The 4 lowest levels are auto shift, the rest are manual. Also, it controls the top speed of your opponent, as well as the police start at 120, your opponent starts at 90. And if I put it on this top level, it's 200 miles an hour. So you have a 200 mile an hour opponent and a 200 mile an hour police force, and it's just unwinnable. If you go down to 170, it's more of a compromise between the fact the computer will always outdrive you and the fact you don't want to make it too easy. This is usually the skill level I've used, or it has always been the skill level I've always used. So you still have the working radar detector up in the upper left there, just like Test Drive 1. Burning out is also very hard because of the timing, and an F40 is much higher strung than anything in Test Drive 1, much more of a serious performance car. It has a kilometers per hour speedometer, as does the 959, because these are supposed to be the European versions of the cars. That's not always true when you have the other cars on the car discs. Some of them are metric and some of them are imperial. And anyway, hugging the center line can help, as in Test Drive 1. You have to pay very close attention. The police cars are Ford Crown Victorias instead of Dodge Monacos. But as I said, the performance doesn't reflect that. The performance is determined by the skill level you set. And I did manage to do a clean run this time, in spite of being horribly out of practice. I'm skidding all over the road here, and my time didn't turn out to be so wonderful either. It is possible to do this course in under a minute, just under a minute, but I had a much slower time than that. So here comes the gas station. It's actually possible to overshoot it, and I will here because I'm struggling to control the vehicle. Didn't brake in time, and I pass it at 100 miles an hour. So yeah, I got a 20-second penalty in my score as a result of that. Each level in Test Drive 2, you get an additional life. I think because they recognized this game is longer than Test Drive 1, and they wanted to make it more user-friendly. So I'm winning the game against the Porsche. You can see my time there and their time. And this is the overall score. And the gas station attendant is praising me or what have you. In contrast to Test Drive 1, when you complete the final level, you get arrested. So anyway, thanks for watching.